Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating and honestly highly provocative ideological manifesto. We're going to break down the structure, the rhetoric, and the absolute claims made within a specific text that literally challenges the foundational beliefs of pretty much every major world religion. Now, our goal here isn't to endorse or condemn anything, but rather to understand exactly how this text constructs its arguments to persuade its readers. It's like a giant puzzle of persuasion. So let's get into it.
But first, before we look at the actual claims, it's absolutely crucial that we establish our source. As stated clearly in the text, the source of this video content is the founder of Lifechanyuan, Feng. We're stating this right up front because everything we're about to explore, every theological claim, every strict rule, every dire warning, represents the specific, stated worldview of this one author. We're impartially reporting on his doctrine, treating these points not as objective facts, but as the foundational architecture of his unique ideology.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the core question.
So how exactly does this author draw the reader in? Well, he frames our totally natural human desire for a beautiful future against a direct challenge. He basically asks, if you're kind, if you're hardworking, and you genuinely long for a good life, then why don't you take the road to heaven? It's a rhetorical trap, right? This aggressive interrogative style hooks your attention immediately. He's essentially saying, hey, if you want all these good things and the path is sitting literally right in front of you, what is stopping you? It demands an immediate response from the reader and perfectly sets the stage for the intense arguments coming up.
Which brings us to Section 2, the failure of traditional practices.
To build up his own authority, the author knows he has to completely clear the field first. So he immediately sets out to dismantle what the general public traditionally believes about salvation. It raises questions you'd probably ask if someone pitched you a new spiritual path. What if I just study the Bible or the Quran? What if I read the Tao Te Ching? Or, what if I just maintain a kind heart and try my best to be a fundamentally good person? For centuries, billions of people have believed these are the keys to a heavenly afterlife. But how does Feng respond to this deeply ingrained global belief?
Absolutely no way. That's the literal translation of the Chinese phrase used in the text. There is zero ambiguity here. And what's really striking is the shock value. The author doesn't just say these traditional methods are, say, less effective or a bit outdated. No, he offers an uncompromising absolute dismissal. He is attempting to pull the rug out from under every major established religious and moral framework in one swift motion.
Let's look closely at the specific list of things the manifesto claims are utterly useless for reaching heaven. Studying holy texts? Useless. Having a kind heart? No chance. Practicing other spiritual disciplines or chanting sutras? Not even a shred of hope. And the really crucial point here is how he views doing good deeds. The author asserts this extreme position, where he claims that if you've done many good deeds, well, you should essentially count yourself incredibly lucky that you're just barely avoiding hell. But good deeds alone, they will never ever get you into heaven. The door is firmly shut on traditional morality as a ticket to salvation.
So what's left? That leads us to Section 3, the only heavenly path.
Having systematically invalidated every other spiritual and moral path, the author has created a massive void. And now, he introduces his singular, highly exclusive solution, Lifechanyuan. This brings us to a really foundational concept in the text, the Chanyuan cow. According to the manifesto, becoming a Chanyuan cow is the absolute, non-negotiable prerequisite for salvation. The text states that anyone who is not a Chanyuan cow, regardless of who they are or how amazingly they live their lives, has absolutely zero possibility of going to heaven. In fact, he claims that anyone outside this specific group is unknowingly walking the path of the devil. Talk about a strictly exclusionary doctrine, right?
And to justify this incredible exclusivity, the text makes some sweeping, absolute theological claims about the identity of the Lifechanyuan guide. Just look at how this builds. The author doesn't just claim the guide is a wise teacher. No, the text demands you believe the guide is the messenger of God, and simultaneously the incarnation of Jesus, the incarnation of Buddha, the incarnation of Lao Tse, and the incarnation of Muhammad. By absorbing the foundational figures of Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, and Islam into one single persona, the author is attempting to consolidate all global spiritual authority directly into the guide of Lifechanyuan.
Moving on to Section 4, the scientific procedure of ascension.
Now, you might think a text making such massive theological claims would rely entirely on mystical faith. But actually, scratch that, the author abruptly shifts his rhetoric here. He rigidly describes ascension as a strict quote-unquote scientific procedure entirely defined by the number 36. Specifically, he introduces the concept of the 36-fold Bagua array. He uses mathematical, procedural language to argue that going from the human realm to heaven is totally devoid of luck. Waiting for a stroke of luck, he claims, gives you less than a 1 in 100 million chance. So according to him, it's an exact science that permits absolutely zero chance.
So what exactly is this scientific procedure? Well, the text breaks it down into some highly unforgiving steps. First, you have to enter this 36-fold Bagua array. Second, you must successfully pass through every single one of those 36 arrays sequentially. The author stresses that even if you're already a designated Chanyankao, if you fail to navigate even one single array out of the 36, you will absolutely fail to reach heaven. And step 3 is the ultimate rule. You must strictly, without any deviation whatsoever, follow the guide's specific route map. Trying to find a shortcut? The text warns that you're just deceiving yourself and making a fool of yourself.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the final warning and choice.
As the manifesto draws to a close, the author enforces an intensely binary worldview. On one side, you follow the guide to heaven. On the other side, you follow the devil to hell. The crucial takeaway here is his explicit assertion that there is absolutely no middle ground. None. There's no gray area, no purgatory, no I'll carve my own path. You're either strictly adhering to the guide's map or you're on the devil's path. This kind of rhetoric is specifically designed to eliminate any hesitation or consideration of outside perspectives. The text then hits us with a severe ultimatum from Zhu Feng. He lays down these final, stern warnings, claiming he's delivering this message directly on behalf of God and all the major prophets. He tells the reader they must follow the map strictly. They have to abandon all illusions of any other path, and most notably, he completely absolves himself of any future responsibility by telling the reader, do not complain later that no one warned you, do not cry foul and say you didn't know. He shifts the entire burden of this massive binary choice squarely onto your shoulders.
Which brings us full circle to the author's final, provocative thought. He leaves the reader with their own internal echo. Ask yourself, why don't I take the road to heaven? By examining the source material today, we can clearly see how the author structures a worldview of absolute exclusivity, totally dismantles traditional beliefs, and uses a mix of theological authority and rigid procedural language to present an uncompromising choice. It really is a fascinating look at the mechanics of ideological persuasion. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.